lot of bill introductions. I think we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order of January 25th. First thing on the agenda is bill introductions. I'm going to take and do the first one myself. I missed it the other day. It's 22 RS 2644. Limits the action of officials of private property. As a member of the House asked for this. Is there any objection? Not seeing any. We'll go ahead and consider it introduced. I also have a couple bills by Senator Tyson concerning the selection of the process of Article 5 delegates. RS is 22 RS 2505. Is there any questions on that? Not seeing any objections. It'll be introduced. I've got another one concerning nullification of federal overreach by Senator Tyson. The RS is 22 RS 2608. Is there any objection or questions on that? Not seeing any. It's introduced. Do we have any bills in the audience? Mr. Green, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Senate Fed and State Committee. I do have several bills on behalf of Opportunity Solutions Project that I'd like to introduce. The first one is 22 RS 2709, which involves the use of satellite boxes, or what is known as drop boxes, for voting.
Do we have any questions or objections? Not seeing any. It's introduced. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second one is 22 RS 2731, which is the prohibition of certain or modification of certain election laws.
Okay, any questions or comments or objections? Not seeing any. It's introduced.
And then the third, Mr. Chair, is 22 RS 2671, which pertains to the use of advanced ballots for elections.
Is that the right number?
Or 2671, I'm sorry.
There we go. Any questions? Any objections? Not seeing any? It's introduced.
Okay.
Just make sure you get with Michael and he has all of it. Okay. We still have no revisers, so let's go ahead and on the handout, committee of minutes was handed out for 1/20/22 meeting. Do we have any comments? Do we want to approve the minutes? Have a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Senator Hildebrand. Motion by Senator Longbine. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Against, nay. Passes. Do we know where our revisers are? Can we try to track one of them down to give us an overview on the bill?
Jason is just around the corner.
Is he in a meeting?
We just let out, local government just let out. It was our
Okay.
staff. He was walking behind me, maybe somebody stopped him.
Okay. Well, we're going to start with Senate Bill 330, so you probably want to jump to that part of the packet. That way you'll be ready. And probably, just so you know, we'll work House Bill 2005. That's the hot water tank bill. And then after that, we're going to take a look at Senate Bill 34. That's something that you heard from last year. We'll have an overview from, I believe, Jason. And then I think Senator Hildebrand will have a proposed amendment. But we won't finish working that today. We'll allow him to get his amendment adopted if he can, and then we'll set on it, okay? You want to do an overview on Senate Bill 330? Okay. Gonna make you do it, huh? Maybe, huh?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this bill deals with Capital Preservation Committee approving plans to place a permanent memorial honoring Kansas Gold Star families on the state capitol grounds. The Secretary of Administration is authorized to receive monies from grants, contributions, and so on for the construction and creation of this. The Secretary of State shall remit monies to the State Treasurer as provided by statute. There's hereby established in the State Treasury a Kansas Gold Star Families Memorial Fund, and the bill is effective upon the Kansas Register publication.
Any questions? Okay. I think a bunch of the members signed on, I believe 38. So we'll go ahead and open the hearing on Senate Bill 330. Perry Wiggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I'm Perry Wiggins. I'm the Executive Director for the Governor's Military Council here in the state of Kansas. And I want to take this opportunity first to say thank you for the opportunity to be here and testify on behalf of Senate Bill 330, a bill that establishes a monument here on the State House grounds in honor and recognizing those families that have given the ultimate sacrifice to our nation and to our state. We are one of the few remaining states in the nation that does not have a memorial established on our State House grounds, and so this particular bill would rectify that oversight. The state of Kansas has always been a military-friendly state, very supportive of our military, and this bill will be procured through private funds. No government funds or state funds will be used for the procurement of this particular monument. This monument will establish an account at the Treasury Department so that donated funds can go into that account and be used for the purchase of the monument. And we've already met with the facilities director, Frank Burnham, and he has approved the site, which lies within the Veterans Walkway on the southern side of the State House grounds, and it fits ideally within those monuments. It's a pedestal, stands about 44 inches tall, similar to what you see in the garden or in the planters out there, so it'll be no different. And it's a very, very dignified, respectable monument that will do what we want it to do here in the state of Kansas. I've had the distinct honor to serve in the cloth of this nation for 33 years. When I came back to Kansas and retired, that was the choice of my wife, who said that she loved being stationed in the state of Kansas. So when I got back here, I was approached by several individuals that said that they would like to see us put this type of monument on the State House grounds, and could we make it happen? Sadly, over those 33 years as a commander, I've had to, on bended knee, present a flag to families of the fallen, and I tell you, that is a sacred duty, one I take very seriously. But it helped me come to a realization that our true and unsung heroes for this nation are those families, the ones who have given the ultimate sacrifice and sacrificed our nation's most precious resource, which is its sons and daughters. Now, as a father of 2 servicemen myself, I can tell you that's one of the hardest things you can do. Standing on point for this nation in uniform, for me, was not difficult, but to have 2 of my own standing on point is very difficult. Kansas has participated in all of our nation's wars, and in World War I, many Kansans throughout this state, in rural communities all over the state, hung banners with pride with blue stars on it, signifying that they had some loved one, a direct family member, involved in conflict. Unfortunately, if that loved one fell in combat, they turned that blue star to gold, which really signified not only that they had paid an ultimate sacrifice, but enabled communities to put their arms around them. I see this memorial as being an opportunity for us here in the state of Kansas to once again honor those families that have given the ultimate sacrifice for this nation for our liberties and freedoms. But more importantly, it signifies once again that we as Kansans can come together and wrap our arms around these family members and show them that we love them. So I thank you once again for the opportunity. In closing, Mr. Chairman, I would tell you that I think that this is an incredible opportunity for our state to really get after this particular oversight, one that I'm sure was done not with malice, but absolutely something that I think our state can do. And I'm looking forward to moving out and getting this done. And I appreciate you entertaining my testimony with regards to Senate Bill 330. Subject to that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Senator Longbine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perry, thank you for being here today. General Wiggins is a very proud soldier. He probably would not tell you, did not mention that he retired as a three-star general, former commander of the Big Red One at Fort Riley, Kansas. And so we are extremely happy to have him back in Kansas and is appointed as the governor's military counsel. General Wiggins has done a tremendous amount of work on this. Design is basically done. The Capital Preservation Committee has already approved it. So we are left with passage of this bill and then fundraising, which I am very, very confident that that will happen very, very quickly. And so great work. It's not often that we have 38 co-sponsors on a bill that we can all rally around, and a great, great cause. So thank you very much for your work on this.
Thank you, sir, for your comments.
Senator Fasco-Doe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Longbine, Senator Jeff Pittman sent a text message out to my side of the party urging us to support this legislation, so I'm honored to do so. The Senator Longbine, General Wiggins, mentioned that the design was almost completed, but can you just give us a sneak preview of what it would look like? And again, what would be the height and the width of the monument? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. It's going to be gray granite coming from the state of Georgia. It's incommensurate to what is already existing within the Veterans Walkway. It is a pedestal, 44 inches high, 24 inches in depth. It will have a slanted front, which will have a brass plaque. And on that brass plaque, if you bear with me for a second, will be some simple words that will be placed on it. I have a picture diagram because we had two different types. I know it's hard to see, but it's this one over here. It's very simple in its dimensions and in its height. But on it, it will have a gold star pin. This is the pin that was recognized by the Department of Defense shortly after World War II. That will be at the top of the bronze plaque, and it will be in gold and purple. It'll be the only color that's on there. And then on the plaque itself, it says, dedicated by the grateful citizens of the state of Kansas in honor of those Gold Star families who sacrificed a loved one for our liberties and freedoms. So a very simple, dignified monument, not too tall, and basically I think it fits in very well with what we currently have out there on the State House grounds.
Further questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any further proponents? Any neutrals? Opponents? We'll go ahead and close the hearing on Senate Bill 330. Since I just looked at the bill again and everybody on the committee were co-sponsors, I think this is one of them bills we could probably move in lightning speed. So, Senator Longbine, if you want the floor, I'll let you have the floor and make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would certainly move that we pass out Senate Bill 330 favorably for passage.
Do I have a second? Senator Fasco-Doe seconds it. Questions or comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Against nay? It passed. This bill's on its way to the floor. Okay, that's great work. If we could turn our attention back to House Bill 2005, the hot water tank bill. One of you guys want to give us a quick overview, and then it'll be at the pleasure of the committee what we want to do with that bill.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, if you recall, House Bill 2005 was the amendment to the Boiler Safety Act to raise the capacity of a water heater for the exemption from the inspection requirements from 85 gallons to 120 gallons. So now you would have to have a capacity exceeding 120 gallons under the bill in order to fall under the inspection purview of the state fire marshal. And that bill is set to go into effect on publication in the Kansas Register.
Okay. Do we have an amendment for that bill?
Mr. Chairman, I believe there was an amendment to change the effective date from Kansas Register to the statute book, and so that amendment would just be on page 3, line 6 of the bill, to strike the words Kansas Register and replace them with the word statute book.
Senator Longbine?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move the amendment.
We have a motion on the amendment, a second by Senator Peterson. Senator Longbine made the motion, Senator Peterson second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Against, nay. Passes. Okay, we're back on the bill. House Bill 2005 as amended.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I may, there were also, because this is a holdover bill from last year, there's a technical cleanup that I would just ask the committee to approve for the revisor's office. Just to clean up some dates on the statutes being amended.
Motion, is that all right?
That's fine if you want to make that.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, and that's as amended, pass out favorably as amended with technical cleanups. Do I have a second? Senator Peterson seconds. All, any questions or comments on what we're doing? Not seeing any. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All against, nay. It passes. That bill's on its way out. Okay, we'll turn to Senate Bill 34. Jason, you want to give us an overview? This is a bill that was heard last year, kind of looked at it. And the plan is on this, get an overview from Jason. I think Senator Hildebrand might have an amendment. I think he's been talking with the parties. And then we will look at his amendment, and he can adopt, make a motion to adopt his amendment. We can even pass it up to that point, and we'll stop and let it lay over for a day, and then give everybody an opportunity if they want to amend it more. Okay? Go ahead, Jason.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senate Bill 34, which came over to the Senate, or originated in the Senate, I'm sorry, last session. It's a bill concerning rules and regulations adopted by state agencies. And under the bill, it would establish a 5-year sunset on all rules and regulations that are in effect on July 1st of 2021. And so those regulations would sunset after a 5-year period. This includes new regulation, and then it also imposes a 5-year sunset on any new rules and regulations that are adopted, or any rules and regulations that are substantially amended after July 1st of 2021. With that 5-year period starts on the date of the adoption of the regulation or the amended regulation. The bill does set a substantial amendment if the amendment broadens or narrows the scope of the regulation. That's considered a substantial amendment. It would require that on or before July 15th of each year, the Office of Revisor Statutes were certified to the Speaker and the President of the Legislature those rules and regulations that are set to expire the following June 30th, because they're subject to that 5-year sunset. And then the bill provides that rules and regulations shall only be adopted by a state agency if they serve an identifiable public purpose and are no broader in scope than necessary to meet that purpose. The bill will go into effect on July 1st of this year on publication of the statute book. But again, that 5-year sunset under the bill as currently written would go into effect for rules and regs in effect on July 1st, 2021. And then there would be a 5-year for any new or substantially amended regulations.
That's the bill. And then we can ask questions on that, but probably be better to let him tell us his amendment before we get too deep in it, I think.
If you like, I have copies of the proposed substitute we can
Yeah,
distribute.
why don't we do that? And you might want to just go over that too, so. Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, you have a proposed substitute for Senate Bill 34. I will note that this was being drafted and worked on up through yesterday, and so this is not a proofed copy of this draft. This would go through proofing, so any typos or grammatical errors you might see will be corrected, obviously, before the bill is formally before the committee. But this substitute, instead of a 5-year sunset on all rules and regulations adopted by state agencies, would establish a 5-year review of such rules and regulations. And so each state agency that currently has adopted and in effect rules and regulations is listed starting in paragraph 2 on the first page and following on pages 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6, and to the very top of 7. These are all the agencies split up over a 5-year schedule. And so in the year that the state agency is designated down there and every 5th year after that, that agency would be required to submit a report to the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules and Regulations by July 15th of that year. And the report would be a summary of the agency's review and evaluation of its rules and regulations. And it would be, each rule and regulation would have a statement as to whether or not it was still necessary for the implementation and administration of state law, or if it may be revoked, subject to an accelerated procedure for revoking rules and regulations that's included in the proposed substitute. And so you have that review report that's submitted to JCAR on July 15th every 5 years for each of those agencies. There is also a provision on page 7 of the document. At the top, any state agency that's not listed because it doesn't currently have any effective rules or regulations, but that subsequently adopts rules and regulations that become effective after July 1st of this year, would then have a 5th year reporting, review and reporting requirement effective 5 years from the year that those rules and regulations were adopted by that state agency. There is still a provision in subsection D that any rule and reg can only be adopted if it serves an identifiable public purpose to support state law and is no broader than necessary to meet such public purpose. And then sections 2 and 3 amend current rule and reg statutes regarding the filing and review of those statutes to provide an accelerated revocation process for those rules and regs that are identified in an agency report as ones that can be revoked through that process. Currently, revocation acts similar to adoption of a regulation in that there's submission to the Department of Administration, to the Director of the Budget, to the Attorney General. Then there's publication in the Kansas Register if it's all reviewed. There's also review by JCAR. And then there's a 15-day period before it's effective after publication in the Register. On page 8, you'll see in the new language there, subsection D, for just those rules and regs that are simply being revoked. There's no new regulations being adopted. There's no regulations being amended. It's just a simple revocation identified by the state agency. They can do that, excuse me, by submitting the revocation notice to the Attorney General to ensure that their revocation is compliant with state law. If there is a request from a member of the public to have a hearing on that revocation, then the state agency has to hold a public hearing. But after those two conditions are satisfied, the agency would simply have to publish the notice of revocation in the Kansas Register, and 15 days after that publication, the revocation would become effective. There is no process going through the Department of Administration, the Budget Director, or JCAR under this accelerated process. The amendment in Section 3 is simply a conforming amendment to exclude those particular filings from review by the Joint Committee, because the Joint Committee has already received the 5-year review report. And this will go into effect on July 1st of this year if the committee, if the legislature enacts the proposed substitute. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions. Senator Fasco-Doe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason, so I serve as the ranking member on the Joint Committee on Rules and Regulations. And so if we were reviewing these rules. So our committee really only has the power to hear information from our state agencies, and then we submit a letter of our recommendations. So then in the amendment offered, was there anything in there to give our Joint Committee on Rules and Regulations more power to address the very issue that we're speaking of? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, the proposed substitute, under this proposed substitute, the Joint Committee would simply receive the agency's 5-year review and evaluation of its rules and regs. So it would be aware of those regulations the agency had identified as necessary for the implementation and administration of state law, and those regulations the agency had identified as being subject to a quote-unquote fast-track revocation, revocation under accelerated procedures. But they would simply be receiving a report. They would receive approximately 20 to 24 reports every July from those agencies that were scheduled to submit a report for that year.
Further questions? Senator Longbine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is probably not for Jason, but if I remember right, last year, one of the problems that the committee struggled with was the large fiscal note associated with this bill. I wonder if the substitute amendment would make changes to that fiscal note, and if we could request what those changes might be.
Okay. We will do that. Senator Hosher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm trying to remember back to last year, too. So help me out. Can you remind me, where did the bill originate? Like who?
It was requested, I believe, in this committee last year as a committee bill, and it was introduced and referred back to this committee. We had a hearing in the committee on Senate Bill 34, and then no action was taken.
Okay, thank you.
Let me give you, Senator Hildebrand, why don't you give us a little background?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I was the one that introduced the bill in Fed State. Basically, it was to, when you get to looking, I think Kansas has over 750,000 rules and regulations that are on their books in the KAR. A lot of them are back from a long, long time ago, and this was a way to get those reviewed and get the old regulations. That's what the intent of the bill was, to get those old rules and regulations off the books and updated. As our friend and colleague, the good senator from Lyon, pointed out, the fiscal note was pretty expensive. The agencies felt it was going to be an overburden for them to review their own rules and regs. So this was a compromise on this amendment, was to fast track a way that they can pull back any outdated rules and regs that should no longer even be in use, and this gives them a way to fast track to get those out. So I am hoping and expecting the fiscal note to be a lot more reasonable. So.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, we can wait. Why don't we wait to adopt this? We'll get the fiscal note, and then we can do it all at once. But that way everybody knows what we're doing. We kind of talked about it. Let's get the fiscal note ordered, and that'll probably take a couple days, and then we will work on this again. Okay? Any further questions? Senator Longbine, I'm assuming you probably want to carry Senate Bill 330. And do we have anybody that wants to carry House Bill 2005? Senator Reichman, I think you'd be a great candidate.
Senator Reichman.
It looks like a hot water tank bill.
Yeah. With that, we've got, not a real busy schedule this week, but next week we will. I just want to, we will be meeting on Monday. Got 3 bills on Monday. We're going to have a pretty busy schedule. And we're probably going to try to get some of these smaller bills out of the way on Mondays and then dive into the bigger issues during the week. So with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.